Yes guys, welcome back to another Fantasy Football Fix YouTube video. My name is FPL Nacho and today's video we are going to be looking at the top transfers going into game week 10. We got to talk about Man United, some budget forwards, whether to sell Erling Haaland, and my wildcard is active, so I am going to be revealing my latest draft. So as always, look forward to today's video. Make sure you do drop a like and of course smash that subscribe button. Without further ado, let's get into today's video. So first up, I really wanted to talk about Man United, in particular their midfielders. Now, in the opening 9 game weeks, nobody has been touching these players, rightly so, because it's been a bit of a circus under Ten Hag. So much unpredictability with their performances and their results. But now we're in a situation where Ten Hag's been sacked. Van Nistelrooy is coming in as the interim manager. We know that Amaron will eventually take charge. So we're in a bit of a limbo right now where Man United are quite an exciting prospect. We know that they do have undervalued FPL assets. But the big question is, can we actually trust ourselves and trust Man United to buy them in our team? So the 3 players I want to look at are going to include Garnacho, Rashford and Bruno Fernandes. Outside of these 3 players, in terms of attacking players, I think they're all just going to be a case of avoid for now. I don't think Casemiro is going to be a pick, even though he did score that worldie last night. And it's worth touching on Man United's team selection because, again, we don't know what's going to happen on the weekend. But they did set up with Dalot at right back, Martinez at left back, a Casemiro and Ugarte double pivot, and then they played the front 3 of these, Garnacho off the left, Rashford off the right, Bruno in the 10, and Xerxes down the middle. No idea if that is going to happen on Saturday. And that's the big thing that we do need to note, is that with Man United, uncertainty is exactly what it is. We have no idea what team's going to be picked, which players are going to emerge as the best picks. So you know if you're going to go for Man United players, you are taking a huge gamble with your selection. So all we can do right now is take a look at the players that have actually been performing in the last few game weeks. Garnacho right now, the cheapest at 6.2 million. Bruno at the other end of the spectrum at 8.2 million. But when it comes to XG per 90, Garnacho is the man, 0.52. The stark contrast between him and Rashford is crazy. 0.08 for Rashford. I've never seen anything like it for him. Usually he is the source of goals in this Man United team, but very much being much more the chance creator. And I do think with him playing on the right-hand side, if that is to continue, is going to be a common theme where Rashford maybe being a bit more of an assist merchant and Garnacho being on the one getting on the end of things created by both Bruno and Rashford. When we take a look at Bruno Fernandes, very much the more well-rounded asset, 0.32 XG, 0.23 expected assists, and we know what we're getting with Bruno. He's going to play every single minute. He's going to be the heart of everything good in this team. But the big thing we've got to ask ourselves is, if we're taking the risk on Man United, can we justify the additional money spent on a Bruno? Now, with the fixtures coming up, I think it is a good time to consider Man United options. I think now the Chelsea game at home is not a great fixture, but if I was a Chelsea player, I would be devastated. If I was Maresca, I'd be so annoyed because they have no idea what's going to be coming for them. Whereas Man United can actually prepare a game plan knowing what Chelsea do. Chelsea are going in completely blinded. It might be an opportunity for Man United to catch them out. I still think it'll be a good game. I think there'll be lots of goals in this game, is worth noting. So I do think if you want an entry point for a Man United attacker, I actually do think this week is the week to do so. Yes, you can wait for another game week, get yourself 1 game week's worth of information. But while Van Nistelrooy is in charge, I think it's always going to be very much limbo on which players are actually going to be long-term sustainable picks until Amaron eventually comes into charge. So right now, I think if you're using your free transfers, I don't think Man United are an absolute priority because I imagine there are lots more transfers that you need to make for your team. So do not be jumping in on Man United. However, if you're in a position where you're on wildcard, I do think there is an opportunity to get ahead of the curve. And if I was to select one on wildcard right now, I do think Garnacho is the pick. I think with so many premiums available in the game like Cole Palmer, Bukayo Saka, Salah, that we need to prioritise, you probably are in quite a luxurious position if you can still afford Bruno Fernandes and it doesn't negatively affect your team. I'd much rather have Garnacho and Trent Alexander-Arnold in my team than Bruno Fernandes and a 4.5 million, 5 million defender. That is my view right now. but I do fully expect Bruno to come onto the cards around game weeks 11 or 12 when he inevitably gets that double-digit return. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section. I do think we need to have Man United on our radars. So taking a look at some of the budget forwards in the game, because I really do think this is the main topic that managers are debating and which ones to prioritize as a transfer. Because of course, right now, a lot of managers are looking to do the move of coming down from Erling Haaland to then upgrade one of their midfielders to Mo Salah. And in order to do so, the only reason managers are considering it is because we have so many great value forwards available in the game. I could have selected 5, but the 3 that I've isolated right now is going to be Raul Jimenez, Wissa and Cunha. Chris Wood is obviously a pick, but I think we've seen enough information from him in the opening 9 game weeks to know that you're getting a safe, secure pick with guaranteed minutes, decent underlying numbers and good fixtures. So Chris Wood I still think is a phenomenal option, but I want to look at 3 different options for our teams. Now, take a look at the price points first and foremost. 5.7 million for Raul, considerably cheaper than the most expensive pick of Cunha. And it's also worth noting that Vissa's price did go up to 6 million. So a slight change in price for Vissa, now 0.3 million more than Raul Jimenez. Now, when we take a look at the underlying numbers for all 3, remember Vissa was out injured for a little period. So it probably is skewing the data a little bit in terms of how much you want to look at. Yes, this is based on per 90 minutes, but usually if a player's played twice as many minutes, I feel a bit more secure with the numbers that I'm viewing there. However, Vissa's numbers are great. 0.84 expected goals per 90 is so much better than Cunha's at 0.3, and the XG for Raul considerably better than that of Cunha. Also, when we look at the expected assists, Raul's still putting up great numbers at 0.44 per 90, Cunha at 0.29 and Vissa at 0.06. But I always speak about this. Whenever I'm buying a forward, I don't actually care about the expected assists, the creativity aspect. Yes, it is an added bonus, but if the guy is just dominating in terms of the XG in that team, that's all I'm caring about right now. And Vissa is ticking that box. And you can also see that in terms of the big chances. Vissa and Raul above 1, Cunha only 0.25. Now, you're probably reading this right now thinking, why the hell would I buy Cunha right now? He's the most expensive. The underlying numbers are worse. But a few things we need to consider. First and foremost, they have had the toughest fixture run by far. Wolves have just been atrocious. And the fact they've put up these numbers over that period, I actually think is quite impressive. So I am expecting the numbers to actually improve as we progress. But it is worth noting that Cunha is very much this type of footballer where he is a bit more of a street baller, gets involved in the play, in the build-up, might not be the guy in the box all the time, but I still think he is a great option. The big thing we also need to consider is bonus points. His bonus baseline is ridiculous. It is the best of all the forwards, much better than that of Erling Haaland's. And the reason being is because he's getting involved in all this creativity in the Wolves team. So all it takes is a goal for Cunha and he is going to get top bonus most likely. So we do need to take that into consideration. And I would argue his minutes are going to be better than that of both Vissa's and Raul's over the next 4 game weeks. Now when we take a look at the fixtures, I think we have arguments for all 3 to say they have great fixtures. Fulham, the only red fixture is Tottenham away. And what I will say about it with Raul is I feel like he's a very easy player to bench if you want to as part of a rotation. With Cunha, I think you're going to struggle to bench him at any point with 3 of the next 4 at home. And Vissa's, I think away from home, I don't feel confident about Brentford. So Fulham away, Everton away, I really don't love. Then we got to focus on the home games of Bournemouth at home and Leicester at home. I think there is good value there, but again, I prefer Cunha's home game in game week 11 against Southampton, and I'd even argue the Bournemouth at home game is pretty much on par, maybe a little bit worse than that of Leicester at home. So which one should you prioritise in your team? Well, of course it comes down to the budget available. I still think Cunha is probably the one that I would go for just because of those guaranteed minutes. I still think Vissa's minutes are going to be great, don't get me wrong, but I think Fulham away and Everton away I think are not great games for Brentford. I think if I was ranking these right now, I would have Cunha at number 1, Raul number 2, and then Johan Vissa number 3. But of course, it all comes down to your budget, and it's worth noting there are cheaper enablers in that Wolves team, like a Strand Larsen, but I do think I'd rather pay a bit more and get someone like a Cunha who just has more avenues to points as we progress throughout the game weeks. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Let's take a look at my wildcard team to see who I have selected. So as I mentioned, I have activated my wildcard, and we have to say a few things here. First and foremost, I have made a slight change to this team that I will discuss. I do apologise, but anybody that activated their wildcard at any point will know that changing your team regularly is just part and parcel of having the chip active. And secondly, my team value is probably the worst on the planet. I believe it's about 100.7. So if I can afford this team, you can absolutely afford it. So just running through my team. Goalkeepers, still an area for debate. Fabianski absolutely locked in at 4 million, and we might get him as the #1 goalkeeper at West Ham. Just a no-brainer for anyone that is wildcarding. But the goalkeeper area is a tricky one. If I had great team value, I probably would just bite the bullet, get Raya in long term. But unfortunately, I have to cut corners with my team value. So I'm looking at more of a cheaper goalkeeper. I think Sells is the most logical with the underlying numbers that we're seeing with Forest. But I also don't mind Kepa at Bournemouth with probably better long-term fixtures for them. So that one is still up for debate, but I think Sells is just quite a safe option for us. Moving into the defenders. Now, I've currently got a premium option in Trent. I previously was flirting with the idea of just having Kanate as my most expensive defender, but I foresee problems later down the line with that selection. I think with my team, I need to have some sort of access point in that defence, whether it be Trent or a 6 million defender. And with my team structure right now, I can afford Trent. So I think it's a case of if I can afford him, I just put him in, end of the debate. The reason being is it will then allow me to come down to maybe an Arsenal defender later down the line if I really think Arsenal are worth investing come game weeks 12 or game weeks 13. Then we've got very much some budget defenders, but this is where the first changes happened. I've actually had the money in the bank to upgrade Mazraoui to Dalot. We saw Mazraoui bench last night in Man United's cup game, and I just think based on what we've seen this season, Dalot has been one of the standout players for Man United, and I fully expect him to retain that position in the Man United team. So I've actually upgraded Mazraoui to Dalot to target those fixtures between game week 11 and game weeks 13, where I think Man United could pick up both attacking returns and some clean sheets. So Mazraoui's been upgraded to Diogo Dalot, but remains on the bench. Then we got some budget enablers. Aït-Nouri I think is great, especially if you're wildcarding, because if he picks up that yellow card and is suspended, you at least have the flexibility on your bench to accommodate that suspension. But do note that Anderson's coming in because at 4.3 million, I think he's fantastic value, and film fixtures are good. Then I got Vandenberg, the outstanding 4 million defender. Game time is great at Brentford, and Brentford do have games that you can feature him in. Now moving into the midfield. This is where obviously I have got Mo Salah in. If you haven't noticed, there is no Erling Haaland. If I'm going to wildcard in game week 10, I absolutely have to go with that Erling Haaland to maximise the risk appetite, and I'm happy to take it this week. So Mo Salah in as the captain. Then we got Cole Palmer and Mbeumo. Those three are just absolutely locked on this wildcard team. But the other two are up for debate. Now, I like the idea of being aggressive, going for Son for 2 game weeks, Villa at home, Ipswich at home, and then pivoting to Saka in game week 12 when Son plays against Man City. However, if we have any uncertainty about Son, whether it be minutes or fitness, then I think maybe just going for Saka and accepting that this is a player that I want long term is the right route to go for. It means that I'm not booking in a transfer later down the line. But I need to really reassess whether Son is worth it, because game week 11, captaincy at home against Ipswich for him could be the thing that sways me. And I think Saka will have a tough task against Newcastle away and Chelsea away in the next 2 fixtures. So I need to assess that one. Currently, Son is in. And you can see on the bench, I've got Garnacho. I'm quite bullish on this new manager Banks for Man United. I think this is a team that really are full of egos. And when they get their way, I think they are going to kick on. And I think whether Man United win or not is a thing to debate over the next 4. But I think they will score goals. And I want a piece of that. And Garnacho is in at 6.2 million, who I think is great value. Lastly, the forwards. Now, obviously no Erling Haaland. I've touched on it. I'm happy to take that risk. And I've got a plan in place for the next 5 game weeks to then pivot my team to Erling Haaland around game weeks 14. I'm happy to take the risk over the next 5 game weeks. The problem, I don't have a mid-price forward to allow myself to fleet between the other options available. But when I've looked at the options, Watkins, I'm just not willing to pay 9 million there. Nicholas Jackson, a fantastic pick, but again, I'm struggling to get to that price point. Darwin Núñez, I know that's a transfer waiting to happen in a couple of weeks' time. Solanke would have been the one, but I just can't trust him right now. So I think there is actually enough value in these budget forwards to go for them. Wood at home against West Ham, probably a bit more of a safe pick. And if I wanted to be aggressive, I would change that to someone like a Johan Visser. But I'm a little bit scared right now that he'll continue to tick over. And I'll probably kick myself if I don't put him in a wildcard team. So Wood is in, Cunha alongside Raul. Very much how I ranked them in the previous section. So that's my current wildcard team. I think a lot of these players are locked in, but there are a few decisions still to make. And of course, if you want to stay up to date with it, just make sure you follow my account and I will update you on Saturday if you are interested. Lastly, let's take a look at these projected points and the best captain. So for a lot of people right now coming into game week 10, I think the argument is if we are going to go without Erling Haaland, Mo Salah has to come in and be the captaincy pick. And based on our predicted points, it does kind of back it. Mo Salah predicted to score 7 points, Erling Haaland 6.6. So those two are clearly the favourites. Now, I don't think there's a big enough discrepancy right now in the predicted points to say you should take a points hit to get rid of Erling Haaland to get to Mo Salah. I really do think it's a case of if you're taking a -4, you just keep Erling Haaland. I think it is that close between these two as premiums. But what you saw in my wildcard team is selling Erling Haaland not only allows you to get Mo Salah in, but also maybe allows you to upgrade one of those midfielders to another premium. And if that is the case and you can do it as part of a free transfer strategy, I think it is a good move. But let's be real, Erling Haaland can score in any game at any given time. The only thing we do need to caveat, of course, is the injuries that have happened to Man City. Savio going off, Grealish injured, plenty of problems at Man City. Could that be a tricky game against Bournemouth now? You need to make that own narrative. Outside of those two, Palmer at 5.8 and Son at 5.6. Another reason why Son could be a great differential on those wildcard teams. And then the ever-present Wood at 5.2 million. And another reason why with Watkins away and then has Liverpool away in game week 11, very hard to pay 9.1 million for Watkins when you got someone like Wood, 3 million cheaper, offering the same predicted points. Unfortunately, Eze went off injured last night, so I think his predicted points will now diminish. And then we got the usual suspects in Saka and Trent. So for me, I do think Salah is a standout captaincy. But if it was taking a -4 to sell Haaland to Salah, I wouldn't do so. I would keep Erling Haaland. So thank you so much for tuning in today's video. Bit of a longer one, but I felt there was a lot to touch on. If you have any questions, do put them in the comment section. We'll be sure to answer them. And of course, let me know what your thoughts are on Man United and my current wildcard team. If you enjoyed it, drop a like, smash the subscribe button, all the good stuff. And I'll see you in the next one. Take care. Cheers.